Greetings, people. We have just watched the unnecessarily deliberate ACC football schedule release. Alex is joining me, and I figured it would be fun to jump started on this and get going and talk about the schedule week by week, and then we'll take some questions and we'll take some questions in the chat as we go along as well. If anyone has anything they want to ask as we kind of on theme, and then we'll take some more random questions at the end as well from JOL and from the chat. Appreciate everyone for joining us on Monday night after a very busy Junior Day weekend with lots of content, still lots of content coming. So stay tuned to JOL for all that stuff. Appreciate everybody for their support. And let's get it going, baby. The week one, Georgia Tech at Colorado, facing the Deion Sanders, not Dallas Cowboys coach Deion Sanders. And
Yeah,
with
Brian Schottenheimer got that one. How about that hire?
I guess Marty still. I don't want to say something bad about Marty Schottenheimer. He might have passed on.
That's a good question.
But certainly interesting hire. To be honest, and like the world knows I'm not the biggest Dion guy, but I would take him over Brian Schottenheimer. But we'll see. Maybe it'll work out. You never know. The NFL. But yeah, we'll see the Colorado transfer Buffaloes, and Georgia Tech will get to try to get some revenge for 1990 in Folsom Field. I think that's where they play, right? Folsom Field.
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, first time going out there. So excited about that. And I have no idea what to expect in that one. I think that's an interesting one where Georgia Tech has a strategic advantage out of the jump just because they have so much of their offense back and a lot of defensive guys back and continuity, and Colorado's had a lot of interchangeable parts. And it seemed to take them some time to get going last year. So it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. And the Big 12 struggled in a lot of their crossover games last year as well with other conferences, including a bad bowl loss for them and when they played one of their teams from their own conference in the Alamo Bowl. So Georgia Tech didn't look great in their bowl game either, but had a lot of guys out. So we'll see what happens. Week two's Gardner Webb. We don't really need to talk about that one. Week three, Alex, Clemson. I think the ACC's hope here is both teams are undefeated and ranked in the top 25. I would say that's why that game's there, wouldn't you?
And I would say that judging by the last maybe 2 or 3 years, Clemson's kind of got out of the gates a little bit slow. So I don't. That they had. I don't know. It might be the right time to catch them instead of once they get rolling a little later in the season. But I know people didn't want Clemson on the schedule every year like it has been, but I kind of like that rivalry. I know Clemson's been a pretty big powerhouse the last several years, so it wasn't all that great to see them on the schedule every year. But historically, Georgia Tech's Clemson's pretty big game in the ACC, so I'm glad that's back on the schedule. And like I said, I think it's not the worst time to see them in the third week of the season in September. So, they got a good bit of their offense back too, so it should be a pretty big matchup for the ACC early on.
Yeah, I'm very curious about their new DC, and then kind of like Cade Klubnik. Can he finally live up to the hype and be like a top tier quarterback? So far, he has been middle of the pack or worse than that in the league every year, and hasn't seemed to turn that corner yet. So I'm very curious to see if that happens there. They've had a lot of issues with their receivers and just not being very consistent. So interesting game. Week 4, you get Temple. I think Temple did they fire Stan Drayton? I don't even know off the top of my head. Who's that's just been an absolute train wreck since, ironically, since Jeff left there. It's been just an unmitigated disaster.
Temple head coach is K.C. Keeler.
Yeah, so they fired Stan Drayton, and I thought they did. I just wasn't
Yep.
Not paying a lot of attention to Temple at this point, to be honest with you. That's like a summer thing, like looking at their final roster and trying to figure that out. But chance for revenge for one of the worst losses of the Jeff Collins era, when he hyped them up like they were playing the '85 Bears on defense, and they dropped multiple like balls in the plus side of the field, like going into score, and barely avoided getting shut out. And then that got broken against the bad Virginia Tech team, I think, later that year. But it's interesting. There's been such a long gap between these games. I don't remember if that was one that got pushed. I don't think that got pushed because of COVID. I'm not sure why the return game is so much later, but here we are playing this, 5 years later, 6 years later.
I don't know. I guess I've tried to wipe as much of that era out of my memory as I can. I don't remember a whole lot of
It
that.
was like 26-2, maybe was the game. Like, and there was like a near brawl before the game on the field, and Coach Choice kind of like broke up a fight um, with some players on the field before the game, and then Jeff had this press conference afterwards where he talked about how great Temple was, and I was like, you can't do that here. Like, they're not that good. Like, stop acting like you just. He was propping himself up by talking about how great they were, and it was just really gag inspiring.
Not Jeff Collins.
Week 5, another new. So you get you get 2 back-to-back games for new head coaches. You go to Wake Forest to play the Demon Deacons, who've been absolutely shook up by the retirement of Dave Clawson, and they hired the Wazoo coach. And I don't really know much about where they're at right now. I have a couple of friends that cover Wake, so I'll dig into that over the summer as well. But um, that's what's going on there. First bye week, and then the Battle of the Techs, baby, back in Atlanta. A chance for revenge for Haynes King missing that game up there, and playing as banged up Zach Pyron and losing. And I think it's a good opportunity for an interesting game there, where if Georgia Tech plays their cards right, could have 1 loss or no loss, 2 losses going into that one. So, and I don't know, I haven't looked at Virginia Tech's schedule yet to see where they're at. So,
I mean, Kyron Jones is back again. That's about what I know about Virginia Tech.
that was in question for a while too. There was some rumors that he was going to go in the portal, and they were recruiting a couple quarterbacks. I know, just in case he went in the portal. Read into that as you may. Week 8 at Duke. That was a horror show during the Ted Roof era of defensive coordinating with Georgia Tech. But other than that, they've played pretty well up there. It'll be interesting. Feisty Duke team. They got a better quarterback, I think, with the Tulane quarterback now. It's a step up.
Yeah, they paid for him, so
I was
he's
impressed with Manny's coaching. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't really sold on him at Miami, and I thought he did a much better job of coaching that Duke. He really squeezed a lot out of them. They were not particularly deep. They had some good talent on defense. Mike Elko did a great job there, but they were a tough team. That was a tough out for Georgia Tech playing them this year. So be curious to see up at their place. I'm the other thing I'm curious there is, like, are they going to start to draw a little bit at some point? Like, will it be, because it's been terrible most of the times I've been up there. It's been almost more Georgia Tech fans than Duke fans most years. So can they kind of have a little bit of atmosphere in that stadium? That's something I'm kind of keeping an eye on. A lot of trips to the Triangle this year. Got 3 of the 4. Well, Wake's not in the Triangle, but got 3 of the 4 North Carolina schools on the road this year.
close enough. Tobacco Road, they're all about the same.
Yeah, Tobacco Road. There you go. Syracuse. We were, so a little behind the scenes for you guys. We were both watching the release show, and Alex logged on as I was literally like audibly chuckling as they played that Fran Brown clip with his faked outrage, fake. I hope it's fake outrage over some perceived slight he had against Brett Key. That is something else, and I'll be curious to see what that looks like. I'm fairly certain that Georgia Tech will be very fired up for that game. I'm fairly certain that former Georgia Tech assistant Ricky Brumfeld, who was parted ways in the middle of the season, is going to do whatever he can to fire his team up and fire Fran Brown up for that one. So should make for an interesting game. The last time Cuse was in Atlanta, the previous season was an absolute dogfight of a game where they had like no quarterback, and
Yeah,
that was as ugly of a football game. It was just brutal, like watching the two teams. It was like a boxing match going too far.
they kept putting the tight end in there at quarterback and just running like wildcat basically, and it was going to be a really bad loss if Georgia Tech. I think that was the game that got them bowl eligible last year, so that would have been a
That was yeah, and it was a fight. It was a street fight, man. And then they fired Dino like the next day, Dino Babers the next day after he lost that game. So I expect another rock fight with them. That'll be, I'm sure there'll be some flags coming out and some chippiness in that one. Week 10 at NC State. Dave Doran, my comments on him are out there. I'm not a big Dave Doran guy. They had a bad year, so he's sort of due to bounce back. That's sort of been his MO, up and down, up and down, up and down. Um, Again, I haven't looked at their schedule either, and they've had a lot of issues with their offense. And then defensively, they lost their DCs. Now the head coach at Marshall.
I mean
Be curious to see what they look like.
they've got their freshmen. I mean, they started the year this year ranked top 20, top 15 or something like I can't remember like with McCall, but I mean by the end of the season that freshman quarterback was playing pretty well.
Oh, Bailey, yeah.
He almost single handedly beat Georgia Tech with his scrambling in that second half of that game, but yeah, they're up and down. I mean, and then a week off after that, I think, and on the 8th.
Then the frozen tundra of Chestnut Hill, and in like the middle of November, they play at Boston College. That's kind of a tough draw playing up there at that point in the season. Not like super excited about that as someone that's got a lot of family up there. That's not really the time of year I'd want to be up there, but is what it is. I'll be up there actually in a couple of weeks when Georgia Tech plays basketball. I'm taking my son up there for his winter break to go see some family, but take my oldest son. And Bill O'Brien's done a good job there. It's sort of, this is not murderer's row. It's interesting. There's a lot of like solid teams. We don't really know what anybody is yet. Same with the last ACC game the next week, Pitt. Like Pitt was really good in the first half of the season and really bad in the second half of the season after Eli Holstein got hurt, and the wheels kind of came off the bus there. And it's interesting where Narduzzi is there. He's sort of settled in to sort of a lesser Dave Doran role, like where they're sort of bowl team, like kind of fringe contenders. Will upset somebody, will lose a couple they're not supposed to. Just kind of hanging on. I don't know what his trajectory is there and how that's playing at Pitt at this point, but I'm curious to see if they take a jump up in year 2 with Eli, who hadn't played at all before going there from Alabama after 1 year. So they're an interesting team.
He was somewhat hot seatish before this year, and I think he had to like replace his coordinators
But he's had to over and over again. I think he may not be like a fun guy to work for, just to be honest. Reading the tea leaves here and his personality and stuff. And so I could see that could be an issue for him. And he's been through a lot on the offensive side. They've been through a lot of different guys during his time in the league. He's been there for a long time now too. Since Paul Chris left and went to Wisconsin, and he's long gone from there. So he's lasted a lot longer than I assumed he would. And then obviously Friday night in the Benz. I'm sure everybody's super excited about that. I'm just glad it's not in Athens. That was agonizing. Getting home at like 4:30 in the morning from that. Hopefully it's ACC refs. I believe it will be for that one. we don't need to see Georgia getting the Kansas City Chiefs treatment again. A
That was
little tongue in cheek there, but
that was yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the $10 million deal that the ACC refs come with us to the Mercedes Benz. I don't know if they're that much better, but who knows? I've got the lowest
they'll at
opinion
least
of
probably be
officiating
equally
I've ever
bad to
had.
both sides, which would be a step up from what we saw in that Georgia game. So,
Right. Yeah.
let me do a couple of the questions from the chat area, and then we'll jump into the ones from JOL. Any thoughts about this? I know I'm not ready to like handicap it yet. Like that's what everyone's going to ask. How many wins? What do you see? I don't know, because we don't know what the final rosters are for any of these teams yet, because there's still another portal period coming up in the spring in April. So April, May, you get another fun, insane portal period. So I don't know.
I mean,
I mean, it's a bowl. It's a more manageable schedule on paper than it was a year ago.
that's what I was gonna say. Like it's not like crazy. Like last year's schedule was ridiculous. Like before looking at it before the season, this is somewhat manageable schedule, and
Two preseason ranked teams, basically, looking at it right now, like
the
Georgia and Clemson.
and the first two
Colorado, probably not.
I mean, the first two road games in conference is at Wake and at Duke. Like if you were going to pick some rowdy atmospheres to go to, to start with, like I mean that those wouldn't be very high on the list. I mean, then you get into November at NC State at Boston College. Like, who knows? They might be good, they might not, but they're not like perennial contenders for the ACC right now. So, yeah, I think it's a very manageable schedule. And I was talking to a high school coach about this the other day. Like, Georgia Tech's got things going in the right direction. There's 2 straight bowl eligible years, bowl games, trips, and but now you're going into a season where there's actual expectations on the team. So that's the next step. Is like, I know people were always talking on the message board about when is the right time to like start asking like when Brent Key is going to put together a big season. And I think this coming year would be the year. So expectations are on the team now. So let's see how they respond. And looking at the schedule, it's not, like you said, it's not the same level of like difficulty as last year, just based on what we expect. But who knows? I mean, it's January, so a lot can change before August 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to track as this goes along. I'm sure that my Twitter mentions are already on fire over that Friday night Georgia game.
But with all that said, I think worst case scenario is 12-0. ACC champs, national.
Worst case scenario. Alex is going big on the Georgia Tech futures at the sports book. Speaking of Georgia Tech stuff, I will pick somebody to give this stuff away to. I was given one of these like towel things before, and then like a koozie, like a Georgia Tech koozie, before the game the other night. Like one of the guys just saw me, he's like, "Here, do you want this?" I was like, "Sure." I will give it away to somebody. Just like comment in the on the comments, not the chat, but in the YouTube comments after if you want it, and I'll try to get in touch with you somehow, or you can shoot me an email or whatever. JOL subscribers have my email; it's on my signature. I'll pick somebody out of that and I'll shoot it over to you somehow, or you can come get it from me at an event or something.
You gonna autograph it for him?
If somebody wants my autograph, I'm sure, but I think that devalues it, so probably not. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. Oh, sorry, not the towel. This goes to Securo. My bad. This thing, which is it's like a thing you. I guess I could open it up. I'm taking it out of its package. So I'm devaluing it. It's sorry, I was the towel goes to our boy. That's from the NC State game, maybe? Is that where they gave those away? Chad Bishop got it, gave it to me, and then some people claimed it. This was the Welcome to the Thriller Dome. It's like a little shakery thing. So that and the koozie. Sorry, I'm sorry. My bad. I'm not trying to give away something I've already promised to somebody else on the board. I just grabbed it. I wasn't thinking. I was like, I knew I had two things to give away. I just can't remember what they were. My bad. A little tired. It's been a long couple days for us with the junior days. Speaking of junior days, Alex, who do we think is the first commit for the 2026 class?
I mean, I'm surprised we already didn't have a commit from what the board wanted over the weekend. But I mean, I don't know. A lot's been said about Chad Fairchild. He seems like he's pretty into Georgia Tech, and they like him a lot. And local kid, linebacker, position of need. I could see him being the first one off the board personally. But I mean, I don't know. They've made a strong impression on a lot of these 2026 kids, and it's a good time to have them because the state of Georgia is absolutely loaded in 2026. So I don't know. I mean, I would say Fairchild will be the leader, but who knows?
That's who it's going to be, baby. I don't know. I feel pretty confident that Chad will probably be the end up being the first guy in the boat. He loves Georgia Tech. But yeah, it could be somebody else. Sometimes you'll see like somebody else jump in, and this is kind of a surprise. But if I were to hazard a guess, that would be my first thing. Nick also says that Clemson fans will be mad at me on my hot Cade Klubnik take. I don't think my take's very hot based on any other ACC person I saw comment or any of the color guys doing their games this year. He was getting called out quite a bit. So they Dabo and his situation, they need to get it going for the sake of the ACC. Deepesh wants to know how they keep getting great basketball recruits. Kids like Damon Stoudemire, man, Coach Dame. He is very popular. They're using their NIL wisely, and they're building up. Like I know they suck right now, but this is sort of the building phase of it. We don't really know yet enough about what's going on to make a full judgment. I think I don't know, Alex. You've talked to all these kids. What do they tell you? The thing is, Alex actually is the one that interviews all these kids, so he could probably give you a little more insight than I could on it.
I mean, it's pretty easy that like every single one of the recruits, basketball recruits I talk to, they talk about the NBA connections. So I know as much as we love college basketball, and I'm a college basketball guy, I don't watch the NBA hardly at all. But these kids want to get to the NBA. Like college basketball is just an avenue for that, especially now with NIL and everything. I mean, some kids are different, but a lot of them want to go play in college for a year or two and go to the NBA, and they think that Damon Stoudemire and he's got a really good staff of it. Guys that's played college basketball, played in the NBA, that they think they can get them there. So, I mean, you can say what you will about Damon, what he does on the court right now, but he's getting talent. So, I mean, I've tried to keep the board like off his back some this year. I know it's hard, but especially with he called him the all boot team today on that
He got a
media
shout out
call.
from Chad about that. That was pretty funny.
And, like he's got three of his top, what he expected to be top
Top
five.
eight guys, I'd say your
Yeah,
top the rotation basically your top eight guys, right?
and
Two
they're
of them were starters, and two they haven't played. One of them hadn't played since what
Kawasi hadn't played since like the third game of the
Cincinnati
year.
game or something.
Yeah,
And then Luke played some, missed some games, and then has been out for like 2 months.
and and Luke was on a tournament team last year. Like he was expected to be the one of the ones that helped him get over the hump this year. So,
So
I
when you
mean,
see the ball float out to Sawari in the corner where he's standing there, no one's guarding him. Those are the shots that are Luke O'Brien and Kwesi shots they're supposed to shoot, and that's how the whole offense is geared. So it is a bit of a problem. And then Mustaf is their fourth ball handler, and then when Lance goes down, like he had been, you're down to two guys who can handle the basketball, which is problematic given how they're playing and how many minutes they're playing. But they're punching above their weight considering all the injuries in some ways. The problem is they've lost some games they should have won, and that's what I think frustrated people. And I get it, but we're all sick and tired of covering. Oh, sorry, sick and tired of watching crappy basketball after years and years and years. built up frustration. So I understand that part of it too.
And a few games ago I was talking about Duncan Powell like not taking those threes. Well, like he's stepped up big time last 2 or 3 games, and he's knocking those shots down to where, like you said, where they've got Soiree or Dongo or Powell in the corner when they drive. Like Powell's been knocking them down. So, I mean, he's getting by with what he's got right now. I still think they can beat some teams down the stretch, and who knows what happens in March. Nobody expected NC State to win the ACC tournament last year. They were going to
So,
fire Kevin Keats,
yeah,
and then they went and won the ACC tournament, went to the Final Four. I'm not saying this team's going to go to the Final Four or anything, but like you get hot and you find a formula that works down this in March, and anything can happen. So we'll see. And you get some guys back. He said Kawasi was out of the boot and working his way back now, so we'll see. That would give
I
them
mean,
another
you got to
scare.
think about it this way too. And no one wants to hear this because they want to see teams win. But your three starter, the starting lineup that he expected to have was Dorian, who's not been on the team quit the team like weeks ago, having personal problems. Wasey, Luke O'Brien, okay, and then McCollum and Nate. That was supposed to be a start five with Lance as a six man. McCollum's missed like 6 games with concussions and an ankle injury. Lance has missed multiple games with different injuries. Mustaf's been out the last couple games in a boot. And then Luke and Wasey haven't played that, and so that leaves you with Sawari, who was supposed to be like the 12th man, playing a lot. Duncan Powell stepped up, who was going to be a rotation guy, and then they're playing like Ryan Matumbo. They didn't expect to. They expected to play either, depending on the game, Sawari or Matumbo. They're having to play both now. They're not deep because they've been just deplenished by stuff. So it's weird to me that people are like so down on the basketball team, like it's a coaching failure. I think it's just a failure of roster health and one kid flaking out, which Damon had. And trust me, I've dug into this. Damon did nothing wrong there. That kid just flaked out, and it sucks for him, And they're doing right by the kid by letting him hang out and be in school and stuff. But like he had a kid flake out that was expected to be a dude to play 20 minutes a game, and then you had 2 really serious injuries and then a third injury, and then the guy who everyone thought would be their leading scorer has been just banged up all year, and McCollum. So it is, but like it, I there seems to be a lot of brightness on the horizon with at least their recruiting, and Damon seems still locked in, like which is the thing I'm looking at. He's still coaching hard and stuff. He hasn't given up on them, so give it some time. I mean, um,
And Damon also, which I've gained some more respect for him in the last few weeks, he's not using the injuries as an excuse either. He said it again today. He's like, I think we can win games with the 6 or 7 guys on the court. Like he's not saying poor me, I've got everybody injured. Like that's part of basketball. Sometimes you go through a year where you just can't catch a break with injuries, and this is that year. But another
so
point I've
well,
made is like the ACC is bad. Like it's bad. As a guy that watches North Carolina basketball,
they
they're not
won the
very
game the
good.
other night, and they jumped from like 17th to 11th with one win, like one singular win. Like they were 17th going into that game, I think, against Virginia Tech the other night, and they win that game and they jump to like 11th. I think they're 13th right now. Like, because it's funny, Chad Bishop and I are having like a discussion about, what happens like if they don't make the ACC tournament. Like, we're just having this like funny conversation about it. It's like either you want them to play well or like not. You don't want to go there and watch them like get boat raced by somebody. So it was kind of a weird thought trail that we were going down. But and then they go out and beat Virginia Tech, which I kind of expected. But yeah, the league sucks, and the whole back half of the schedule. The game tomorrow night, Notre Dame's gonna be hard because I think they're gonna be really fired up because Shrewsbury was pissed that they lost that game, and they got Marcus Burton back, and they're a better team than their record with Marcus Burton playing, but he's been out for like a month, um, and is just now getting back. But after that, I mean, they're not really running through Murderers Row a lot. They still have a game at Clemson, and then some real winnable games still on the horizon. They still have to play Miami. They play at Boston College. Pitt is beatable. They get Pitt on the road. So we'll
Here's
see what happens down the stretch.
I've got the AC standings pulled up. Okay, North Carolina and Stanford are 6-3. After that, Pitt is 4-4. Florida State's 4-5. Cal's 4-5. Notre Dame's 3-5. Syracuse 3-6. Georgia Tech 3-6. Virginia Tech 3-6. NC State 2-6. Virginia 2-7. Boston College 1-8. Miami's 0-9. So that should tell you about the ACC right there. It's a lot of winnable games, and I mean it's just not a good league. And if they get healthy, they can win a lot of games in February and March. So I don't know. It's like I said, I understand you want to win games, you want to be a tournament team, but it's 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 tough when you got that many guys injured, and I don't know that, but they've got winnable games still on the schedule. So chin up, everybody.
All right. Well, we'll do one more from the chat here, and then we'll get into the questions from the board. Hal's asking about Coach Bohannon and if Buster. A lot of hypotheticals here, Hal. So he's saying Buster leaves for head coaching job at the end of next year. Is Bohannon the OC? Is it Winky? I don't know. I think Brent Key's gonna hire the best person he can hire. If you were to hold a gun to my head, I would think Chris Winky would get first crack at it. Bohannon, I don't. Somebody on the board was trying to tell me call plays. I don't know. I should. This is probably just a question I could ask Brian on a text. I don't know that he did. I know he had offensive coordinators and stuff at Kennesaw, and he didn't call play. Obviously, when he worked for Paul, I never called plays, other than in like some practice situations and scrimmages and stuff. But I don't know that that's what they brought Brian in because it was a great opportunity to bring in a great coach. He wanted to keep his family where he was and kind of figure out his next move. So it made sense for both parties for him to come in and help out Georgia Tech. I think it's a win-win to have a guy like Brian, a high character guy that's really well respected in the state of Georgia, that brings some coaching experience, that can be a guy that Brent can lean on in various different ways. And just really great person. Actually, he texted me tonight just to let me know he appreciated all the kind words and stuff that I said on, publicly when all the stuff went down at Kennesaw, and that I was excited to see him back in the flats. But we'll see what happens. Like the what if game is really hard to gauge right now. We don't know what Buster Faulkner stock looks like at the end of this year, or any of these things. Like on paper, they have a really great opportunity to have a good offense and make a huge jump um, into the top half of the league and go to a good bowl game and do those things. Let's see if that happens, right? But I'm not like penciling in anybody is like he's not playing the 40, he's not doing the Dabo thing where he's just going to be moving guys up on the staff like left and right. He's made it a point to go out of the family to make different hires and do different things. And I think that he will evaluate it as it comes. Like I don't know that anything's a shoe in, whether it's Winky would become an OC or he wouldn't or whatever, or Buster would leave. Like we don't know any of that stuff right now.
I was texting somebody about had a kid that played for Kennesaw State the past couple of years. He said that the OC was calling plays. As far as
That's
he
what
knew.
I thought. I thought
Yeah.
that and the guy who used to be the OC who's at Army now called plays too. I can't think of his name off the top of my
The
head.
head
But
coach?
no, not Munkin.
No. No.
They're Cody.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
Cody Worley. Sorry.
Yeah.
My buddy's gonna kill me because they're kinfolk. Anyways, not been following Kennesaw football heavily. Let's put it that way. So I got enough on my plate.
Yeah,
But
Cody Worley, you got it.
but we'll see what happens with all this stuff. Everyone's like trying to think there's all these moves. A lot of stuff depends on what happens over the next year or two. Like, and college football is weird, man. Look at what just happened at Penn State with They hired the Ohio State defensive coordinator and paid him a crap ton of money to like go over there. Like, it is a weird. Chip Kelly left UCLA as a head coach to go be an offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Like, it is a weird business right now, and so
The Ohio State
hey,
DC just went to Penn State, right? Is
yeah,
that
Jim
didn't it?
Knowles, yeah, he left the DC left there, and then they had hired Chip Kelly last offseason from UCLA to be their OC. He was the head coach, left to go be an OC, and so anything can happen, man. This is a weird era of college football. You have all these strange. You have Gus Malzahn as the offensive coordinator at Florida State for Mike Norvell, who's been a play caller. You have, you know, Bobby Petrino at Arkansas with Pet Boss. Like, there's a lot of these weird scenarios. So I'm not putting anything. I would not be like, hey, this is how I see things playing out or whatever. And everyone's very worried about eh, what the next moves are, and it just you can't worry about that stuff, man. Brent's not staying up at night worrying about it, and I don't think Tech fans should. Like, the next shoe to drop. These guys are getting compensated well enough, and they have a really good situation for the 2025 season. You worry about the future of the future. You can't worry about it in the moment, if that makes sense. You ready? Let's take a second here and stump for our friends at Section 31. Alex, you want to do
I
your
got
wrap on your favorite section 103? I call
yeah,
them
I
section
got the hat
103.
on. I got the hat on again tonight. It's very comfortable. It's a really nice hat. I think it'll last a long time. I go through a lot of hats, so with the way my hair line is. Um, so yeah, the really nice hats. The Brent Key hoodie. I got a couple of those for my family members for Christmas. I've done a lot of shopping over at Section 103, so good stuff over there from Georgia Tech people for Georgia Tech people. So and I think they're just going to keep adding to their collection. So it's go support them, and they'll keep supporting us. They'll keep supporting Georgia Tech. So
By the way,
good
I said
stuff.
Section 31. Section 31 was like a terrible Star Trek movie that was on Paramount Plus. I'm a big Trekkie, for those who don't know, and it was the biggest piece of crap that I've ever watched. It was so bad. It came out last week. It was so bad.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't know if I've ever seen it. I don't know if I've ever seen a single Star Trek movie. So uh, maybe the newer ones with the
oh, with Chris Pine and
yeah. I think I did
Carl
watch one of
Urban.
those. It was decent.
Those are popcorn movies. A little more. I like Star Trek, but that Star Trek movie is bad. Bad news. Um, oh, apparently somebody's telling me I gotta watch a review of it. It's pretty good. Yeah, man. Like, whatever happens, happens. These situations. I think people are going back to Buster and all that. I think it is what it is. So let's jump into Buster's here and is happily working with Brent Key. And if the right opportunity comes along, all of us will jump for the right opportunity.
Not me. I'm sticking with Jackets Online. It's been
There you
so
go,
good to me.
Alex.
First question up here after I was asking for questions this afternoon. It says, Alex, do you personally blame yourself for the GT women's team fall off? Does Nell still allow you in the building? I don't think Nell knows me well enough, but I'm sure she don't like seeing my face after the way they played the last two games I've been there.
Kelly, you guys got to go cover the. Why are you covering the men's game? Go cover the women's game. All right, all right. Well, football season ends. We'll cover, and then it goes right in the crapper. That girl got hurt. Like, wasn't it your first game when the
Yeah, Carnegie got hurt,
Cardi
out
got
for three
hurt, and
games.
then like,
They lost three straight.
yep.
Then they won a couple, and then they lost again yesterday. I mean, they played their tail off yesterday. They couldn't. I think they ended up 1 of 13 or one of. I got the box score right here. I think they were 1 of 13 from three, and Carnegie scored 2 points. Yeah, it was a rough afternoon, but Duke's defense is really good. Let me see here.
It's
But yeah, I've not been a good luck charm for them.
You're like that guy who goes to the midweek baseball game and there's like 14 pitchers and they throw like 1,000 pitches and it's like
Oh
a
no, I
18
was
to 14 ball game or something.
I was way off. They were 1 of 20 from 3 yesterday. So
Brian Gregory, yes.
that's bad. Um, yeah, Carnegie was 1 of 13 from the field. So yeah, not a good one. And then the second part of that question: any active names to keep an eye out for in the spring transfer window? I mean, we've got some guys that we think are going
For
to transfer
spring, yeah,
out.
for spring,
Yeah,
leaving or
it just says any active names to keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for.
well, I mean, most of the people aren't in yet that are going to go in the
Right.
spring portal, right? I'd have to look and see how many guys are still floating. Obviously, you probably have some from Ohio State and Notre Dame, but not there's not a lot of things that make sense that I've seen so far from any of those schools. The portal will open again. It's a little different than it's been. You'll get your next window and whatever it is, April, right, or beginning of
Yeah.
May or whatever it is. And then summer school starts like a few weeks after that. So it's sort of the same quick timeline. You got to kind of make a decision and get going, and then go and get whoever you're going to get. Obviously, defensive linemen still kind of a key spot where they could use some help. And then you see what happens out of the spring too. That's the other thing. Uh, or think about that 2015 season where Georgia Tech was not good, and if they had a portal back then, it might have helped. They had their two starting running backs get hurt in spring ball, and that would have helped them at that time if you could have gone out and got something. But it is interesting.
I mean, it's nobody knows what's going to happen with the spring window right now. I mean, Alabama had what was the offensive lineman left? In the winter last year, spent like 3 months at Iowa and then came back. So,
Oh crap! What is his name?
was that Proctor or was that
Yeah,
somebody else?
Caden Proctor. Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, some guys might decide they didn't want to go and make the move to start with. So,
Will has an interesting question in the chat. I'll jump in here real quick with this. Do you think you make Pitt the senior day because it's technically the last home game in BDS? That's interesting. I have not thought about that. And it's hard to do stuff in the bends because of the way it's set up. Like they don't have the space on the side, the same kind of spacing on the sideline or whatever. Because it kind of bottlenecks where you go onto the field. So that's interesting. I don't know. Hadn't thought about that.
that reminded me of something. That video after the championship game the other night of the woman driving the golf cart into the wall.
The Austin Powers thing.
The like I was in that Mercedes Benz tunnel like 3 or 4 times in the last few months. Like, do they really need a golf cart to get from the? I mean, I
Hey
don't
man,
know.
they're tired. They can't walk like the 40 yards to the bathroom. I mean, to the locker room or whatever. I don't know.
But she got it in there good. There was no backing that one up. So that was a pretty funny clip that was going
And
around.
that
Ryan Day
hallway
did.
is wide as crap that you can drive a truck through that thing. You can drive like a semi truck under there. Like it's that big.
Yeah. So that was
I don't
wild.
know. She crashed the cart. That was tough. Tough day at the office, I'm sure.
I'll check for the dent in the wall next time I'm there. Um, next question is about the draft. Who do you see getting picked in the draft? Halls or Biggers or both?
They both got a shot. I mean, I think Hawes is going to come down to like his combine and Senior Bowl. Zeke hopefully will get a combine invite. I think that would help him a lot. People getting to look at that size. And he's been relatively healthy in his career at Georgia Tech, which should help him. You know, Hawes is really good at blocking, so someone will value that. Like he had a lot of bogus penalties this year where he was like pancaking dudes and they were getting him for holds. He was just plowing guys a couple times. Um, I know that was frustrating for him. But Jackson's a great dude. I think someone will take a flyer on him. I think someone will take a chance on Zeke because you can't teach that size, and he moves well at his size. I'm curious to see how he would develop being able to focus on football full time and having a monetary motivational factor like trying to it being your full time job. As far as other guys from the team, not really seeing anybody else get drafted, but I think it'll be an interesting to see where they end up in the UDFA situations. We got Warren Burrell, who showed some real sparks at times at corner. You have Miles Shanahan, not really. Those two guys, I don't see it. Chase Lane, not really seeing it there either. Good college players, just not. I don't think NFL guys off the top of my head. Though, I mean, we've been surprised sometimes by people making it in the league and being able to carve out a niche. I mean, hell, Jack Coco played that. Him and Nate Cottrell played in the NFL. And Nate played for several years, was bouncing around. So sometimes it just takes EJ Jenkins is in the NFL right now. That's sort of a surprise. So you never know, I guess, with one of those dudes if somebody can figure it out, or just find the right coach, right situation for them.
Yeah, EJ Jenkins and Harrison Butker Super Bowl matchup.
In a game that no one wants to watch because people hate the Eagles and the Chiefs.
The next comment on the thing is a nice little Photoshop of Nell Fortner saying that I should not come to the games anymore. Let's see. Coach Brent Key's comments at the National Championship referred to relationships paying off with recruits at this early stage for the 26th cycle. Are you seeing that?
We had a national story. We don't usually have one about junior days.
Yeah.
Because of the impressiveness of the group they had in, and also B, because of the momentum Georgia Tech has in recruiting. And you'll go look at it, man. They had multiple 4-star guys that are all legit. None of them were like, hey, we were just coming by to see it for the once. It was all guys who were legitimately in the mix for.
And they've got a pretty nice group coming in this Saturday too. That I've got to go back and get the specific list together. But I know a bunch of them told me they were coming on February the 1st. Some big targets too. So it's going to be 2 straight weekends of some really, high priority targets. Most of them in state, and like I said,
a lot of defensive guys in particular.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia's loaded. Like I said, Georgia's loaded in 2026 class. Not Georgia Bulldogs, the state of Georgia. So there's a ton of talent, and I think they're going to get their share of it.
And they didn't sign a high school linebacker last year, like a traditional linebacker, a box linebacker, and they had 4 of them that were all 4-star guys on campus this past weekend. Hence why Tyler Santucci was getting pulled in a million different directions, as one of the kids said. They felt like he was getting pulled around.
Here's a question for you. They're asking for you to get one of your guitars out and play a quick riff for everybody.
Well, my wife and toddler are literally asleep above me. So, also, I need to, if I'm going to do something like that, I got to figure out how I would mic it and stuff. We're right now to behind the scenes or whatever. I'm using my phone for our broadcast because it's more consistent. I have to buy a new desktop computer because Windows is no longer going. The version of Windows I have on it is no longer going to be supported come later this year. So hopefully, when I get a new desktop, I can get something that has maybe some compatibility with my amp or something. Because if I could play through electric rig, then I could maybe do something. But I'd want to work something up too, man. I'm not gonna come on here and play Mary Had a Little Lamb or something. I have no calluses on my hands. I have not been playing. So maybe over the summer when I have a little more free time, we can do that. I can work up a little jam for you guys. Also, I got to play something that won't get it demonetized.
Charge admission to the concert.
There you go.
There's a question about any chance you can get Paul Johnson on to tell some old stories in the near future.
I thought about that now that My whole thing with that with Paul was I wanted Brent to get established a little bit before I ventured into that, and I wanted Paul's bitterness to calm down a little bit too. Like I felt like he was really like he was pissed at Jeff for so long and just irritated by at Georgia Tech and Stansbury. And now all those people are gone. There's some time's elapsed. He's gotten in the Hall of Fame. It's probably getting closer to time actually doing that. So I do owe Coach Johnson a call at some point in the near future, and I'll try to figure out how to do that with him, and hopefully as a technology. Tony Parker wants me to play the Stevie Ray Vaughan version of Mary Had a Little Lamb, which is the Buddy Guy version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. I think that would be pretty funny. I have a buddy actually who makes like Stevie Ray Vaughan like knockoff guitars, like with the thick strings and the high gauge strings. He mods Strats for a living. He used to work for Rivals, and his passion project is building these things. I could never get him to send me one of them, but he relics them and everything. He buys like just off the shelf Fender Strats and then mods them up to be like SRV esque Strats. Alex probably has no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
That's all above my head. I'm not a musician guy. I've I used to play the recorder in fourth grade when
I have one of those around here somewhere. The recorder.
there
Right
was
around here
there,
somewhere too.
there was a second part of that question. Give us another good dysfunctional Jeff Collins story. I think we've gone through enough of those. Maybe.
Going through a lot of them. I was trying to think if there's one from that I've heard from this year. Let me talk to my buddies that cover North Carolina. I'll see if I can get you guys a more recent, like Jeff Collins, a bad Jeff Collins story from the Tar Heel media.
I had heard he was on the list for the Virginia Tech DC, but I saw they made a hire today or yesterday. I can't remember. So
There's no way. I know enough about Brent Pry that there was no way that was happening. Um, but it was funny. He has a very good agent selling him. It was funny though. Y'all need to calm down because apparently, I think it was Tim Thomas, the lunch pail guy, was saying that Georgia Tech fans jumped in his mentions when he wrote a story about it. And y'all, if you want, I think you would want Jeff to be the DC at another ACC school. So like don't be like dogging him on like one of these dudes' Twitters or something, man, where it like gets back to the school. Like you're doing yourself a disservice if you believe he is not an elite defensive coordinator to dog him to these people. Like I had a buddy actually who's a big booster at Tech Speed. He was like, "Why are these Tech fans like?" He's like, "Do they not understand that this would be good for Georgia Tech if he got a job in the league as a DC somewhere?" Um, so
I was reading the chat over here.
yeah, let me jump in. There's some maybe a job in Athens, Boger. That'd be good. Will's asking about the clean old fashioned hay on Friday night and it being good for the brand and exposure. Yeah, I agree with that. I think playing on Black Friday is big, especially if they can actually have the bye week like they were planning to do in the GHSA. If it had not been for the hurricane, the terrible tragedy that with that hurricane Helene, that was the one, right? That blew up through the middle of the Georgia and North Georgia, and yeah, I think it's a great showcase. I think anytime you can play on a weeknight is huge. It's a it's just a great opportunity to get yourself on national TV, especially if you win and play well. Like, um, or play a team like Georgia to the wire, like you did, even with some of the weird stuff that happened in that game. Um, it's a great exposure tool for your program. So yeah,
And
I think it's cool. And plus, the other part of me is excited because hey, I get to then watch Rivalry Saturday and like get to enjoy all the games on TV.
I didn't enjoy the Saturday after the
It was
game this
hard
past
given
year,
what
but
happened and the fact that I slept like 3 hours or whatever. And I remember talking to different people, including the football coach at Georgia Tech, and everybody just being like, it was basically like everyone was like hungover after a night in like downtown in the French Quarter. You know what I mean? Like it was like that level of hangover for everybody from that game. So
I don't remember which basketball game it was that next day, but it was a somber mood. I'll say that when I walked in there, and
they play Alabama A&M maybe.
I think that was the day after the Birmingham Bowl. I can't remember. It was a
It was a bye game, wasn't it?
yeah, it was bad. But like the sports information staff was like they weren't feeling all that great about it, and I wasn't feeling all that great about it, and it was a tough day after the game. Um,
Tough for everybody involved with the program. Will's asking if I didn't run JOL, what would I be doing? Uh, Sports writing or anything else? Interesting question. I was close to getting totally out of the business at one point. And I was covering. I was working in the newspaper before it, and helping out part time with Rivals with our UGA site and Another Life. This seems like Another Life. So '07, no more 2008, and um, I was thinking about had started to go back to college and was working on a PhD in psychology and well, master's accelerated master's PhD program, and that was sort of I was thinking about just doing something else in my life. I also worked in the music business a lot, and that could have also probably cranked back up. I could have been out on the road with somebody, I guess, on tour. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It definitely sucked me back into sports writing. That's for sure.
I think I've talked about it before, but I worked at UPS for two
Yeah,
years.
you did. I remember this vividly.
It felt like 10 years, and it made me really want to go back to writing about sports. So I'll say that.
You were
Um,
pretty whacked out of your gourd working
it
there
was
just from exhaustion.
it was miserable. I mean, look, it might be good for some people. I'm not ragging on UPS and any of that stuff. But
It's hard
man,
work though, man. Like it's manual labor.
it was not for me. And the hours, and I was doing preload in Dalton, one of the bigger hubs in Northwest Georgia, and it was just like every day was like just getting the trucks loaded every day with what we had to work with was, man, it was awful. I would say that. So yeah, that got me motivated to get back into sports riding. So
I
yeah,
remember my brother worked at McLean Southeast, like the trucking company, and like loading those trucks and like and he was jacked. Like it was right after he stopped playing football, and he was miserable like physically, and he was in really good shape at the time, and like was jacked and could bench press a ton and squat a ton and but yeah, it's interesting. I have a friend that's a former tech sports writer. I'll tell Alex about offline, but he works for Amazon now. I don't think he wants it out there, but like he's drives one of those like delivery trucks and delivers packages and seems pretty content with it. Like it's like sort of just a 9 to 5 for him, but as long as you're not the guy, I guess grabbing. Apparently, that's really bad working in the warehouse there, from what I heard. But
if the I'll say this, if you're not gonna go to college or like out of high school and you want a quick avenue to a well-paying, good-paying job, you go work preload or night sort is what they call it at UPS. You stay there for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then you put your name on the bid sheet for a driver training, and you can be driving a truck for UPS in, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, depending on how fast they go through the other drivers, and you've got a good, like, really well paying job. Like Will said on the chat, they do pay very well, with the union stuff and everything. So um, good. It's a good avenue for some folks. Just wasn't for me. Um, I'll I'll gladly take going to football and basketball games over driving to Dalton at 2 o'clock in the morning and loading UPS trucks till 9 or 10 in the morning and feeling like crap all the time. So, um, but yeah, that was a weird time for me.
I've always been interested in like CDL, like commercial trucking, but then I see how people drive and like like crazy stuff they do around like semis, and it would just scare the hell out of me. And like the weird sort of some of the weird cultural aspects of it, but like it is interesting, like the idea of being on the open road and stuff. But I always enjoyed driving for a long time, and then I got in like when I hit like 35, I couldn't like drive long distances anymore. I would like get sleepy. Um, like I struggle to make the drive back from like I was struggling driving back from Tallahassee a couple weeks ago. I had to like stop twice. She got sleepy. It was kind of getting dark, overcast. It was raining, and just
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. I used to be able to drive. I used to be able to drive from like Georgia to Massachusetts straight through, and now I like can barely do it.
Um, yeah, that drive back from Birmingham was pretty crazy too, with rain and fog, and it was.
Flooding and the traction control going off on my car like every 5 seconds, and my wheels not being able to get grip because I have kind of smaller. I have a car that has like kind of thinner, non-grippy tire, like doesn't have big grip tires. Yeah, it was super unpleasant. That was as scared as I've been driving in a while. Like just that it was gonna like be this miserable slog because it was raining so hard. I just wanted to like pull over, but I knew looking at the radar that I wasn't gonna let up. So I was better off just like pushing through it, driving like 40 down I-20. It was I-20, yeah, I-20.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. There's a question on the board about assuming that we have consistency with the roster next season. What are the two biggest needs for the basketball team? Um,
3-point shooter that
yeah,
can consistently knock it down. McCollum hasn't been that guy for them. Lance has been more consistent. Nate's shot's still developing. Um, that's where Luke O'Brien kind of did hurt them by not being that guy in the first half of the season. He was out of character for him with his shooting. But yeah, they need that guy that you can just kick it to and he knocks it down. Yeah, Kyle Korver, as Will said in the
there's not a
whoever
lot
it
of
is,
those.
man. Like it doesn't matter. You need a guy that can shoot three of those a game. Like that's just gonna kill it. And I know people talk about Miles Kelly and all this stuff. Miles has not never been that guy. You think more like Michael DeVoe when he was playing with Jose and Moses, like the guy that can be the third banana that you kick the ball out to that shoots threes. That or Adam Smith was that his name, the guy who played BG's last year. That was the transfer from Virginia Tech. That was really good at 3-point shooting, something along those lines. That's what you need. I think that the yeah, Ken Anderson's talking about losing Wasey in the chat. Wasey was that guy who could pump fake on that three and drive to the rim and dunk the basketball too, which is the other thing they're missing. Suarez can sort of do that, but they're not going to go for the pump because he doesn't shoot the three, so they're not going to really defend him out there. Yeah, they need like a 3-and-D guy. That was what they had hoped to get from Luke, and they hoped McCollum would be more of like a traditional scoring guard, and he's just struggled with consistency. And if you had one of those guys on this team right now, it would make a huge difference in just their trajectory right now. And maybe like figuring out the big man, whether it's Mohamed Salah or whoever, figuring out a complimentary big man that's consistent. Just a guy that's going to do lunch pail, dirty work, 10-8 guy.
That's what I like. I think with Scylla coming in and then Cole Kerouac, kind of versatile. I think just having some more depth behind Dongo, and like he it does
When
tend
he's
to get
not
him,
playing well, being able to bench him and
yeah, and when he gets in foul trouble a good bit, and um, yeah, I think having depth at the big man, I think that's going to help a lot. And I think
yeah,
both of them are pretty good players. I watched Cole on Saturday, and he's very versatile. He's a good defender. He's not like the most. He's not like a knockdown shooter or anything. Like he's not like a stretch guy that's going to, but he's going to rebound. He's going to defend. He can run the floor. Um, so yeah, he's pretty good. I think he'll come in and have a little bit of a role, and then Silo will probably have a pretty big role. Um, as a freshman.
Someone asked about Chatfield.
Yeah, I've got. That's another thing. I've got. I'm gonna have a story probably in the morning on the three that I went to watch on Saturday, Chatfield and the two OTE guys, and kind of more about them. And I like Chatfield. I texted Kelly at that game that I was at the other night. It's like, man, he's a really good player. He can run the floor. He can score. He can shoot the ball. I mean, he's under 6 feet, but he's he's creative when he gets around the basket to be able to score. So I don't know. I don't think he's ranked still with the whole ranking
Let's not talk
situation.
about that.
Yeah, I know that's bad.
Sore subject for me.
Yeah, but I mean, if he was 6 feet, I think he would be a. If there was rankings, I think he would be a 4-star point guard. I think he's that good. But yeah, I think he can come in and get some minutes next year. I'll say that.
Anything else in the? Are we done with?
Let's see. There was a question about the first junior day. I think we talked about how well that went, and then there was another question about the clean old fashioned hate at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which we kind of talked about. I don't think they knew it was going to be on a Friday at that when they asked the question, but
Friday. I'm not surprised it's on Friday.
So yeah, and we were talking about that too. I mean, it's going to be considered a Georgia Tech home game, so they'll be able to have
recruits
there like they did for the Notre Dame game this past year. So I think that'll be another advantage of having that game on a Friday. And like, I mean, if it's the same setup as last year with the original bye week for the GHSA, like you said, I think they'll be able to get recruits there.
Yeah, because everyone wants to go to that game every year, especially now that it's more competitive and less of a crap show. All right, I think that about wraps us up. We don't need to keep people up all night, and then I got a flight tomorrow. So, gun.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some baseball this spring. I'm gonna hopefully get something together with that soon. We're
working on that.
Yeah.
But we're here with the last question about the floor and ceiling. I think the floor is like 7 wins. I think anything below that's a disappointing season. I think the ceiling is 10 wins. It depends on how they fill out the lines of the defensive line, the portal, or just how guys develop. Like, is Christian Garrett able to play out of the box, or is Derry Norris or whoever, pick a guy like does Josh Petty or Xavier Canales or whoever, Kevin P. Page Joseph, one of those dudes, like step up on the O line. Like, there's a lot of those kinds of questions. Dre Fuller or Karen Coombs, or like, and then how the guys that were coming back, Shameik Jones, like some of those guys, who steps up out of those groups. I think that will determine a lot of their success or failure, and how close they get to that ceiling. And then obviously seeing how Haynes King develops and what Philo can do as his backup as well, and do they figure out a way to use both of them some? There's lots of interesting questions. Should be a fun season. I'm excited about the season. I'm excited to go out to Colorado for the first time to cover a football game. So appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. Thanks for the late night. Thanks to Alex for jumping on with me, and stay tuned to Jackets Online. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to our channel, and then also subscribe to Jackets Online to support independent journalism. Appreciate everybody. Good night.